What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Fringe. Danielle Smith is under attack yet again, but this time by insiders in Alberta. They're trying to paint a very bad picture of Danielle Smith, that apparently separation talk is nothing more than a ruse to push bills in favor of the United Conservative Party that otherwise they would have had pushback for. I want to talk about this because I've talked about infighting. I've talked about all different kinds of things that are happening within Alberta sovereignty and the vote that's going to come in 2026. The question on the ballot. We already know that question's going to happen. They've reached the threshold. They know they're going to have people signing for that ballot. The question now comes down to, will Alberta vote in favor to go or stay? There's going to be a lot of distractions coming out, and I want to highlight those. But today I want to talk about an article coming from Don Braid of the Calgary Herald. Now, he is a left-wing nut job who works for the Calgary Herald. He pretends to be conservative when he needs to be, but for the most part, he's a lefty. Again, it makes me question who's padding his pockets. Now, that's not to say he's taking any money from anybody he shouldn't be, but it makes me question it with the behavior. Because when we go through this article, some of the questions are going to be asked, does this really seem so bad? Braid says, separatism is a ruse. The real battle for autonomy is fought with UCP legislation. Let's take a look at what the article says. The UCP might look happy to escape the raucous legislature for the long summer break. Debate on bills and ferocious. The scandal over private surgeries keeps spreading and emotions are escalating across the province over a referendum on separatism. But mostly Premier Danielle Smith and her crew have to be pleased. The distractions took public attention away from a pack of province-changing legislation. So again, this is Don Braid saying, I don't like what's happening here, so I'm going to paint a picture that she's the devil. Even a cursory look at the laws shows what's happening on a deeper level. Like no premier since social credit boss William Aberhart in the 1930s, Smith seeks to divorce Alberta from the federal system. Again, don't see a problem with that. She has stripped power from municipalities to the point that some local leaders feel the province is treating their municipalities the way Ottawa treats the province. Well, they really haven't done much in terms of showing how they can be responsible or fiscally responsible for anything. I mean, we've shown Mayor Sohi, we've shown failed woke Mayor Jyoti Gondek. Tell me she's not within her rights to do that. Again, a lot of times in this article, we're going to be saying, so? Towns and cities can no longer strike funding deals with Ottawa unless the province is directly involved. So? The rationale is that Ottawa's priorities, such as multifamily zoning, are not the United Conservative Party's. Healthcare is moving towards privatization, far from national norm. Again, so what? It's not to say it's going to be abolished, it's just offering an alternative. The system is radically reshaped. The system is radically reshaped to make this possible. The central theme is that government, not an arm's length agency, has absolute control. Most startling of all, new legislation allows the government to designate private operators, including corporations, to run approved public hospitals. Again, if they can run them better than unionized hospitals, I'm all for it. If somebody's going to tell me that they've been given a diagnosis of something that requires surgery and they can get in a couple of months versus a couple of years, I'm all for it. I don't see the problem with that. The problem we have, and I know there's a lot of people who stand on healthcare and say, hey, I'm not for privatization. I'm not for anything. I think that we should keep our system the way it is. I look at it as the form of skating uphill. If you're expecting different results, it's going to be a struggle. You got to introduce something different if you want to fix what's broken. And what's being proposed, many people shun on, but it's usually the unions that are pushing back. It's anybody who stands to take a loss on these things. Again, nobody has said that Canada's or Alberta's current healthcare system will be abolished, but simply that some facilities could be switched over to those who wish to pay for those services. In fact, wouldn't it be arguable that if people have the choice to make that option, they would choose that. Ask yourself, if you had a family member who needed critical surgery, and the province or the government of Canada were telling you that, hey, based on demand, based on doctors, based on availability, this life-altering surgery is going to take 2 years. You're going to see specialists. You're going to go through the ringer on everything. We're going to delay. Or you can find a way, if you choose to pay for the surgery, to go private and have it done fairly quickly. Months versus years. Rapid access versus the norm. To me, personally, and I know people are going to disagree, it's okay to disagree, I feel personally that if you're not getting rid of the old system, it's no difference than flying an airline and choosing, do you want coach or do you want first class? Some people fly business class. Some people are happy flying coach. I don't think it's a bad thing to offer it, though. It says it seems possible that the management of a major hospital, the Foothills, for instance, which is in Calgary, could be contracted out to a private health conglomerate. The government would argue that as long as people have their bills paid by government, there's no violation of the Canada Health Act. Smith has even suggested stepping out of the Canada Health transfer payments entirely in return for a portion of GST paid in Alberta. Again, don't see a problem with that. That one is a long shot, but if it ever happened, the last link with the standards of the Federal Health Act would be severed. Alberta Health Services and other health agencies will no longer legally own their facilities. Oh no! On April 1st, ownership transferred to Alberta Infrastructure, which will lease them back free of charge. What the government owns, it can also sell. AHS alone has 380 land titles and 700 structures. Why? Again, I don't see a problem here. The UCP flatly denies any such intention, but the government, sorry, it keeps switching because of their ads. The government will be strapped for cash as low oil prices threaten a deficit far higher than $5 billion. From now on, public health policy and management will be run by the health department. Regional public health officers, now employed by Alberta Health Services, will work directly for a minister if they still have jobs at all. The UCP government will have an iron grip on controversial policies and programs, including jabs. This is a political takeover of a medical matter. So again, they bring up the jabs because that's the hot button issue for everybody, isn't it? If the government has a say over, oh, you can choose? How dare they? How dare they? The legislation also repeals references to health regions in Alberta Health Services itself. Hospitals and private surgery clinics come under the authority of the new minister, Matt Jones. On the federal front, the province is being shaped into a spearhead aimed at Ottawa. The UCP is amending a pile of legislation to make this happen. One example is Bill 45, the Critical Infrastructure Amendment Act, which claims control over every economic area Ottawa has power to regulate. Again, so what? Ottawa's doing a terrible job. Like why is this guy up in arms about this? Oil and gas and other economic assets are designated as critical. The bill prohibits Ottawa from collecting data that relates to an emission cap on new projects. Good. Again, earlier amendments to the Alberta Firearms Act have the same basic purpose. They say that only Alberta agents have control over firearm seizures. Again, they don't want to take those away from people. So what? This drive extends far beyond political demands for Prime Minister Mark Carney to approve pipelines and scrap the emissions cap. The real fight is down on the ground, where legislation pulls Alberta even farther away from the federal system. Good. The sovereignty referendum uproar is just for show, though. It's a distraction from a steady grind toward autonomy. Smith and the UCP took a lot of heat this session, but they had nothing but victories on the issues they cherish. This is nothing more than left-wing propaganda, and many people are going to say, Fringe, why are you showing this? Why? This is a nothing burger. This is a waste of time. There's a reason I'm showing you these articles, because I told you that as Alberta moves on the heels of a vote on a question on a ballot, should Alberta remain a province in the country of Canada? And I know that's not the actual question. These are the attacks that are going to be coming out, and this is a minor one. This is the start of it. This is a left-wing nut job at the Calgary Herald trying to get people in Calgary on board with his left-wing rhetoric to say that Danielle Smith is essentially the devil. And they run the whole story around healthcare to try and seem like Danielle Smith is this monster that just wants to make sure you don't get what you deserve, you don't get what you need, unless, of course, you have cash. That is not how this is going to work. That is not how this has been proposed. But this is what we're going to face. Special interest groups, journalists, YouTubers, advocacy groups, you name it, government. We've already seen senators stepping into this saying, you're not getting away from us. There is a lot that people have to lose should Alberta become independent. I think Danielle Smith is doing an amazing job. I think she's doing a fantastic job. In fact, everything she's passed so far all points to, let's give power back to those to decide what's best for them. That's how a democracy is supposed to work. That's how government is supposed to function, is that the people, at the end of the day, have the ultimate say. And the best thing that we can take from articles like this, folks, or senators talking about you can't leave, is that it shows just how scared they are. That this pipe dream that some people claim will never happen is slowly becoming a reality. Because if they didn't fear Alberta actually leaving, why kick up all the dirt? I think, to be honest, the federal government, journalists, anybody with a left-wing rhetoric is shaking in their boots right now and scared because the numbers are constantly growing for Albertans that are waking up, that are deciding enough is enough, and that are hopefully, and a lot of people are going to say you're focusing on Alberta here, but hopefully leading the charge for other provinces to wake up and say the same thing. Enough is enough with this corrupt federal government, their corrupt taxation, their corrupt programs, their corrupt policies, their scandals. People will say enough is enough. And hopefully, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of it all, in the pile of rubble, all that's left are these pigs at a trough, holding the bag, wondering where everything went wrong. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. If it's your first time here, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for notifications. Join me live here on the channel each and every Friday for Friday Night Fringe, our weekly live streaming show, where I'm joined by the beautiful Mrs. Fringe as we go over everything that happened this week in politics, everything coming up in the week ahead, as well as your Q&A inside of the greatest YouTube community on this platform. I look forward to hearing what you guys have to say each and every week on those live streams, but I most importantly look forward to hearing what you have to say this Friday, starting at 6 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Central, here on the channel. With that said, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great rest of your day. I'll catch you on the next one.